thought I'd make a short little video and show the Starlink setup and how we do it, and how sort of we travel with it. Thought it might have been of interest to you know, other people traveling or caravanners and things. We get lots of questions about it anyway, so thought, well, why not put a video up and yeah, show you about it. So we still travel with it in the back of the car in the Starlink box that it came in. I found that to be just the easiest solution. It fits in there at the moment. For now, the box is holding up okay for now, but apparently there are bags, and Drifter is coming out with a specific Starlink bag for the setup, so for the RV setup, that is. So I'll be keeping an eye on that, and I'll probably be getting a Drifter one when they come out, because most of their gear is usually pretty good stuff. So anyway, if you come on in, you take off your top plastic, and then in here you've got your base. So pop that down there. Next is Dishy. So this is actually called Dishy, not just my pet name for it or something like that. So that's your dish, and they're actually pretty hardy, I've found that. Next we've got the modem itself, and then in here is just the two cables. So what you've got is power, and next up is your data cable for Dishy. So what we do is, it's really easy to set up. So we just plug this in here like that. I take that. There's only one way that this can plug into the base. I'll carry it over near the van. It usually likes to be facing south-ish in Australia. So what I'll do is I'll stick it, say, about there, and I just run the cable out over towards the van. And I mean, you could, they are coming out with some, you know, permanent setups and things like that, where you can permanently mount the dish to the roof, you know, and other options like that. But for now, what I do is I just slip the cable through there, feed a little bit in, and then close that back down. It only leaves a really tiny gap. A couple of small flies might be able to get through if you're in a really flyy area. But what I've also found is this rubber is pliable enough that you can actually shut and clamp down the window clamps on the caravan without pinching the Ethernet cable too much. So, you know, if you're having dramas with flies or midges and things getting in, you can also do that. We've already got the inverter running in there, which I'll talk about in a second. But what we do, we just grab these. I chuck these bits back in the box, chuck the box back in the back of the car. You don't need to see that. And you've got your two plugs there underneath there. They're all like waterproof or water resistant plugs and things like that in these setups too. And what we do is just grab that, plug that in there, flip him over. Like I said, the inverter's already on. I've got my power coming up from the inverter to our power bank there, and just plug that in. And if you see a little white light come on underneath there, it's only one little white light. Once that's on, it's thinking, and that usually might take 10 to 15 minutes depending on sort of where you are, for it to pick up satellite signal, and then bam, you're on. I'll show you the app and everything in a second, but yeah, it's really user friendly, super easy to use, and we're getting good use out of it. So yeah. While that's doing its thing and setting up, I thought I'd give a bit of information about powering it and everything like that, because we'd also get a lot of questions about that. So power wise, I am just running the one inverter at the moment in the caravan. I will go to an in-depth setup on my caravan's power setup in another video, but just for the purposes of this, I am running a 3000 watt inverter, which is way overkill. I think you could probably get away with a 200 watt inverter as well to run something like the Starlink. It draws about 2 amps once it's set up and running, 2 to 2.5 amps. and that's pretty much constant. It doesn't really waver much, it just sort of ticks along. So really it's nothing. It's about the same as running, you know, running a fridge or something like that. So what I've got in the car as well is I've got a 300 watt smaller inverter, and I use that in the car sort of for, you know, charging extra items off the battery, the auxiliary battery in the car. Pretty cheap. I'm probably just going to get a second one of those and wire it into the caravan as well, so that what I'll do is I'll run it so that is the dedicated Starlink inverter. The Starlink inverter. The 3000 watt inverter can be reserved for the coffee machine and things like that, because I also find just to have the 3000 watt inverter running, it's running its fans and whatnot, and just having it sit there and running, it's using maybe 2 odd amps on its own, so that bumps my power consumption up to you know, 5 odd amps or 4.5, 5 amps just running the Starlink at idle, including the inverter. Whereas I know the smaller 300 watt inverter at idle, or just, you know, ticking away running something like the Starlink, it's going to use a lot less. So I'll be doing that down the track. Another question that we get is how fast is it? I'm getting, you know, 120 plus meg download, which my understanding is that's pretty good. It's certainly much quicker than the internet that we had at home. And we had fiber to the node NBN at home before we left. We've been running Starlink now for just over 3 months. We started using it before we left home, and the setup time, as you saw, I've got it down to within a couple of minutes. At first I was a bit precious and a bit fiddly getting my head around it, but once you're used to it, it's so easy to set up and pack down. So yeah, we've really enjoyed using it. The cost, I think through to the end of this year, and they'll always run sales on and off, but the hardware cost that we paid for was $900 something, but it was worth it for what we're doing. We're both, like, Zoe is running her business and I'm working a bit while we're on the road, so having a good solid internet connection from anywhere was high on the priorities list. It also means that, you know, we can make video calls and things like that. I can upload videos and watch YouTube, and, you know, we can just live life like normal while we're out and about on the road. We could be in the middle of the Simpson Desert and we'll have good connectivity, be able to call and do whatever we want. And the ongoing monthly cost is, so I think it's $173 a month. You'll have to check me on that, but it's somewhere around that $170 a month. So it's certainly expensive, but it is unlimited, in my experience, faster than broadband internet. And if you jump on the Starlink website, you'll see their coverage map, and what my understanding is as of right now, the coverage is Australia wide, short of one little black spot in WA at a particular airstrip where I think there's no RF or something like that going on there, so you're not going to be camping near that anyway. It's maybe a 10-kilometre radius, but everything else you've got full coverage. So yeah, we can't wait to be able to really put it through its paces as we start to get into some more remote country across South Australia and heading up Western Australia. And yeah, anyway, that's my Starlink review. I reckon it is, let's say out of 10, I'd give it like a 8 out of 10. The only reason I'm not giving it a 9 out of 10 is because at the moment it's still really expensive, but as technology improves and more people get it, it'll come down and it'll make its way to being a 10 out of 10. I reckon, you know, it'll, and as it gets quicker for connections, it'll get even better. So, you know, we've got a little EPIRB, but instead of buying a sat phone or something like that, we bought the Starlink. So anyway, I hope that was helpful for some of you, and I'll see you in the next vid.